Hello students, I hope that this recording finds you well. My goal in this video is to show you a few things that are coming up in the class so that you can understand those better. So hopefully you're watching this before you started the assignments. So the first thing we're going to do is I want to show you that there's a new paper in term papers in here. And currently you're working on week 2, but week 3 is already up. The comparative analysis paper is the first one in the class, and this is a low stakes paper, meaning it's low points to help you kind of get a feel for how I grade in this course and to help you get some practice in a shorter paper for a peer review, which is actually done online in the discussion board, and we're going to look at that in a minute. So the final one in this class is due February 18th, which is pretty soon, but the paper is very short. It's 1.5 to 3 pages. And when I say 1.5 pages, it really needs to be the full 1.5 formatted correctly. If for some reason a student does not format that correctly and it's too short, they do not get full credit for it. So please keep that in mind, that you want to actually maybe go over the mark rather than under on your paper. So that 1.5 mark, go a few extra lines on that page just to make sure that you're actually hitting the number. So the first thing I want to do is let's go to the weekly folder section, and you'll see that there's a couple folders up. As I'm doing this video, it's early February before week 3, but I want to go through this really quickly and then go on to the next one. One of the things that you'll note is that there's 2 assignments here this week, and then down the third one is really to just read the peer review requirements for the comparative analysis peer review on the discussion board, and that's actually located on the discussion board. The reason I ask you to do this early is because there's 2 due dates on that. One of those is Tuesday and one of those is Friday. You'll actually have to have this paper finished in its form that you'd like to see turned in, or according to the rubric for the assignment, by Tuesday, because you post that to the discussion board and you can't get full credit unless you've satisfied at least the rubric at minimum. So the peer review's goal is to take what you've done that you think is pretty good and have other students look at it to sort of help you get some ideas on some changes that you can make to improve that paper. So a couple of things you'll note for this. Week 3 lab is the lab for that first paper. While it's not required, of course, if you don't do it, you won't get the points for it. It is highly recommended. As a matter of fact, if you don't do the assignment, you still need to come to the lab to start the process, because the steps in this lab tell you kind of what you need for the paper. Rather than putting it in this first low stakes paper, it's done in sort of 3 steps. So you'll do the weekly lab. You'll also go through the peer review once you have your paper done, and then you will go ahead and finish the paper. So it has the due dates on the lab. I'm going to make this normal looking for you. Here you go. So I've got a few notes in here. Do not delete anything on this page. Quite serious about that so that students can stay on task. There's also a few forbidden topics that I'd like you to avoid on this so that you don't do research on something that's just been overdone. So I give you a few. Step 1 is to find 2 related articles on the same topic. You're going to actually go to an online newspaper for this. I wanted to simplify this for you. Sometimes it's easier to find related topics fairly quickly by using online newspapers. You can also use another newspaper, but it must be online. Excuse me, you must also have an author, a date, a title, and it should be the online newspaper. So when you find those 2 that you can live with, you're going to copy and paste the actual links here, and those are highlighted in yellow without deleting any information in this. The next one, you're going to type your question, and you can read these directions, but you have to start research with a question. And so this will be the question that says, okay, if I use these 2 articles, what question is that answering? As you go down here, you'll see what I ask you to do. You're going to plug in some information, and the points that you can earn are here. And then you'll come up with some main points of the first article. And because I have the links and I do spot check those, make sure that you're pretty thorough in this section and this section when you do your second article. So you'll go Article 1, Article 2, and then you're going to look for those common points. So say, for instance, you're doing something on solar power, which I give you an example of down here. You're going to go ahead go ahead and think, okay, so it can be economical, and both articles address economics of it. And also, Perhaps it also discusses something about locations, geography. So if both of those articles talk about that, you're going to write a few sentences about what they're saying in those two common points. And this is really for that comparative analysis because you're going to talk about these points in your paper. So you'll want to get as many as you can, but I say at least two so that you can make sure the paper has enough length and that you're thoroughly looking at those articles. Now, if you find articles and you find that there aren't points in them that you can use, you really need to go back to the drawing board and pick at least one different article that does. Now, you'll notice something in this example that I've given you. First of all, you should really fashion your initial introduction like this. Sometimes and you can add or subtract things that you don't like. Just make sure that every paragraph you write in this class is at least 5 sentences. And really 10 is a good, if you're looking for a good limit on how long is a paragraph, 5 to 10 sentences is a pretty good measure of that. You don't want your paragraph to go down the page. So this actual lab ends at the end of this, and it tells you that your version of the introduction goes here. You'll type it at the bottom. So you can see each highlighted spot on the paper. They are the places that you're going to put stuff. And then it tells you that you turn this entire document in. So you'll save it as a Word document, and then you will upload it to the lab right here. So you'll click the lab and go ahead and turn that in. Now, something else that you'll notice is that there's a getting started early link here, and I'll let you explore those directions. That is due week 3 as well, and so is this one is the peer review, which is due the following week. So let's go ahead and have a look at that really quickly. Okay, so what you're seeing here is what it's going to look like when you go to post your first paper, because you are only allowed to see the posts after you post your paper. So you'll hit create thread, and of course you'll upload your paper, and it's got a lot of directions. You can see that Tuesday, February 13th is the deadline for you to post your essay, and then as you move down here, Friday, February 16th is the day that you have to post the peer review of another student so that they have time to fix things before Sunday. Also, what you want to do in this one is you want to put your formatting style in that subject line when you do that discussion board so that whoever is doing the peer reviews, hopefully they're going to choose someone that has the same formatting style. So you will open it up, create thread, you'll put in your subject line, APA, MLA, CMS, whatever you're using, and then try to choose someone with the same one. Now, there may be a case where you can't do that. You're still responsible for giving them valuable feedback on their paper so that they can make changes to that. And also, please keep in mind, if you don't fully participate in this, just like in class, if you were in my classroom, there is a 10% deduction on your final paper. So this is the peer review sheet. You'll open it up and fill it out completely on the paper that you choose. So first you'll post your paper, you'll choose a paper, you'll send a message to the person and say, I'm going to peer review your paper, and then you'll send them their peer review information back. Sometimes that can be confusing, so I wanted to let you know how that works for the first time. And then other ones I probably won't do a video because they're pretty standard. I sort of break it down into steps. So let's have a look at turn-in papers here, because what's going to happen is to write this paper that you're going to have peer reviewed, you have to actually know what you're doing. So on this rubric, what happens is from that lab 3 that you just saw, you're going to pull in your introduction that you did. Now, you may have to tweak it to make it better, but basically you're going to have to pull that in what you worked on. So here you see all the stuff when it's due. The final one's due February 18th. I tell you, you can't use first person in this. You must use third, so avoid that completely. Third person is things like he and she and one can, people do. So you can't use I and we and you and our and us, and that's really because it's higher level writing. We're not you don't use first person in those. So you look, it's actually the format is usually APA, but if you have a different one, that's fine. So the format is the one that you chose for your, and it's actually written down here. I'll try to take that out and repost it. But here it says use your chosen format according to your field of study. I have a lot of students that go, hey, I'm familiar with MLA, I want to use it, but that's not how this works. You have to use the one according to your field of study. So if you are doing English pretty much that's the only one that will use MLA. In some cases, film studies will too. But other than that, you will use APA. And then if you're a history major, you will use CMS, which is Chicago Manual Style. So rubric directions follow each step below. Maximum points are listed. And here, the rubrics in the future will look different, but I wanted to give you a step-by-step process for this one so that you can make a good grade. And I literally give you the questions you should be answering about the articles that you chose, trying to streamline that. So you'll write a paragraph about each article, and this tells you the first paragraph is this, the second paragraph is this, don't use quotes. And then up here, you'll see where I told you copy and paste the introduction you wrote in Lab 3. Now, if you did not do Week 3 lab, you're going to have to go back to that lab to see the example and formulate that introduction. So hopefully it's making it easier for you. There are quite a few things in here where you look at the graphics and the headlines. So make sure that you're looking at, the requirements for all of those, and also the rubric, whatever your formatting type is in this class, which again, primarily it'll be APA, but it could be something different. It's pretty low stakes in terms of how many points get counted off for formatting on this one. So I think that kind of helps you out a little bit. Wanted to make it so that that you've got all the information you need in an organized fashion so that you can formulate this comparative analysis. And then as we progress through the semester, of course, it's going to get more difficult. A couple of things I want to draw your attention to. First of all, I didn't say at the beginning, it's in the directions, but it is a minimum of 1.5 pages formatted correctly. Also, I require all papers to be uploaded in a Word document. That is doc or .docx should be the extension on your file when you upload it. Sometimes on Apple computers, they save those as .pages, and .google docs is actually online, and so please avoid that too. I cannot read those, and therefore it would be a 0. .pages I can't either, so please keep that in mind. You need to export to Word if you see a .pages extension, and also no PDFs. Even though I can comment, I can't track changes, and if you do upload it in a PDF, I will take a 20% deduction off of the top. So because I can read it, but it is in the wrong format, these others would result in a 0. So please keep that in mind as you go through this. And I'm really enjoying reading some of your work in this class. I hope that so far, things are pretty enjoyable. And please always feel free to email me at any time with questions. And I'm going to go ahead and type my email address for you just in case you need it. So there it is. And please also remember that when I say APA formatting, if this doesn't get changed on this form, that I put that in there because it is the primary formatting source, but it is not the only one. So if you're MLA or you are CMS, that's fine too. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading your papers. Have a good day.